Hi, this is Anthony Padone. I'd like to demonstrate a package called Complete SQL, actually that I wrote. It's a way of a DBA as myself to interact with various SQL Server instances. It was developed over the number of years, working at various companies and deciding certain things that I needed and developed that as I went. So let's get right into it. This first application in front of us is actually called a launcher that I call. And I initially start off with creating instances. It's a way of interacting with my servers. I can interact in a daily basis, in a threshold, snapshot, and reader, and so forth. But let me just get into how I actually function on a daily basis. So the first thing I do is hit daily. And the daily comes up, and I can give it a unique name to what I'm doing. I'm working with a test server right now, as we are. So bring that up. I log into the server. So just normal things. Sorry for that. Okay, so the login has been set. Now we're going to work with this particular instance, and it becomes a session. This is my session manager. With the session manager, I can then pick the data source. So I'll be working just locally on my laptop, as you can see, and we'll be using the master database because we're just working with DMVs essentially. Once that's set up, we're going to pick our queries, how we're going to interact with our server instances. There's a couple of ways of doing it, through a fast track, through a standard, through new, and file import. Fast track is essentially a directory that's set up that houses multiple SQL scripts that I dropped in there, and they're all executed at once. So I'll go into DB scripts where I keep my code. You can individualize where you keep your code. I'll go to fast track daily and click that, and there it goes. And right now it's executing a number of scripts and coming back with various dialog screens. And we'll wait a second or two, and there they are. And on a daily basis, I run scripts about tempdb, objects being created by the sessions, parallelism, tasks that are running in parallelism, waiting tasks, requests, a lot of information about how the request is running, blocking, of course, and CPU on a daily basis. I'll bring them all up, but just work with a couple of them. So we'll just click them all. Another screen comes up, of course, which is I go up with the details of the actual request. So for instance, have a request working locally. This is about CPU. What I do here is I go into query code. I can look at the code also if I chose to, but I'll go into scenarios and pull out a scenario. I want to run about CPU, anything greater than 10%. So I'll click that. We'll just see if it's working, which it is. And now we're going to store it in a bin file. Store it in a bin file so we can review it later. And we'll hit auto fresh so it keeps polling. And that's happening. Information about blocking I can create and store. Request, normal request. This is a very important one. It's a general request. As you can see, a lot of good information about the request running. What I do here normally is, again, of course, clicking on autofill. It'll go into a bin file. And here I'll change the polling session setting to 2 seconds. So it's in milliseconds, so 2000, 1, 2, 3. There we go, 2 seconds. And it's doing its thing. Information about waiting tasks can be the same thing, which is very important. Parallelism, which is important for my server to know about. tempdb, which I'm not going to do right now. But as you can see, I'm collecting information about those things that I selected. And I'll bring that down. Another thing that I do on a daily basis, I'll bring up the main screen, is create an instance about thresholds. Thresholds is basically setting information that I want to know about immediately. So if blocking is happening, I want to know about that. If the CPU is rising above a certain percentage, say 50%, I want to know about that. So this is a threshold for test. And you can have multiple instances running at the same time. So we'll get into the instance, hit threshold, okay? As we said before, we'll go to data source. One to many data sources, but we'll just work with this one. As you well, I'll show you. One to many, but I'll just pick the one right now. So we'll use the master, and we're going against the master database because we're just using DMVs at this moment. We'll also interact using fast track, which is a good savings of time for us at this moment. Go where the scripts are, DB scripts. The fast tax threshold, this one I have a separate one for 2012. Click that. Give it a second or two to execute. Everything is executed from the laptop or from locally out to the server. Information comes back locally. So here we go. Here's a threshold. I'm executing things and getting requests and thresholds about requests, memory grants, memory pressure, long-running queries, pending I/O, again blocking, CPU, and deadlocks. So I can collect all of them, select all of them, hit it. They're all active and live. This is for deadlocks, which I'll do right now. Here's for CPU, which I want to know as far as the threshold. Anything over 50%, let me know, and I'm alerted through the mail. Internal, external. Internal is an internal notification system. External is normal email that you hook into. So I'll do an internal one, and it's already told me I have to create the bin file, which I didn't do. Okay, there it is. So I go to mail, internal, and anytime CPU is greater than 50%, send me a message. The message will come to me. Not a problem there. Blocking, obviously very important. Same thing, but I won't set it right now. Pending I/O, very important. Memory pressure, I can set up get a scenario. I'm sorry for that. Picked the wrong one. This is the long runner, which I'll then collect. And then anytime there's a request running longer than 20 seconds, you send me a message. So this is a long runner. Do it like that. I know what that means. Here's memory pressure. As far as memory pressure, go to scenarios, get a scenario. Here's the settings I want to know about. Okay, and just set it up. And then when the memory pressure does happen, if it does happen at all, please give me a notification. Okay, and that's set. And I'll let this one go, memory grants, and actually I'll get this one. Request here is a scenario, get scenario again, but anytime the logical reads above a certain amount, not in the master database, and the login name is not SQL Central. So auto refresh, bin file, collect it, the file watcher is on that, and when there is a problem, it'll be sent to the mail, and I'll be notified of the, say, logical I/O, greater than 200,000. Okay, and that's that, and set up. So just to recap real quickly, this instances I'm working with a daily and a threshold. So if I pick both of these guys, pop them up, there they are. Here's a request running within the daily. There they are. I can come back in and change different settings on that. And the same thing with the threshold. I can do the same thing. Let me add another piece that I always have running. So I'll go back to create instance. Is a reader. I want to read the mail that's coming to me of the thresholds. So I'll put reader and mail. List the instance so I can work with it, bring it up. There it is. And let's get into the queries again. Here's where I use a file import. I'll go here. I know where the mail goes. So I'll just run to that. File hold, internal mail, and there it is. What we'll do here is sort it. So I'll put a sort, descending, okay, and auto refresh. So anytime there's a threshold mail being sent, it'll come into here. Now nothing is being sent yet, so we'll set one up where it will be filled in. So we'll go back to threshold. Okay, bring up requests, and we said the CPU. So let's change it a bit. Let me just turn it off for a second. How about CPU greater than 0? Okay, and I'll change the mail on that too. So internal CPU greater than 0. Okay, that, yes, turn it back on. Okay, so we should be getting information about that quite shortly. Okay, so go back to the reader. and we'll just turn that on, and we should be getting information if CPU is greater. There it is, greater than C. So greater than 0, and I'm getting the message, and I'm also collecting it here. So that was, say, 11 here, as you can see. And the message column, this should turn 12. Let's give it a second to. I don't send all the messages. I just decipher them and send a couple, so I don't overwhelm my system. There it is, and there it is. And I'll just, what I'll do now is get back to that system, go back to threshold, go back to the requests. That was the CPU. Turn off for a second. Get into mail and display. I want the display, as you can see, the display can be annoying sometimes, but it's very important too. So the mail, go display and turn it off. Okay, turn it back on. Okay, so now I'm quietly collecting the information. Okay, so go back to the reader, turn it here, and turn that on. 14 already, and we'll see probably another one 15 or so. So I'm getting information where I can sort of keep this up on my screen and not be annoyed if I don't want to be annoyed by the actual box coming up too. So in a second or two, you'll see another one, and there it is, 15. Let me close everything out. And that was just a brief introduction of the system. Hope that helped, and stay tuned. Thank you.